Every now and then we have to leave the world of the spirits and go to something a little different, and it's in the hop realm, but maybe with a little less alcohol. I know dry January will be over by the time this drops, but I think people are behaving themselves or mixing in some NA options a lot more throughout everything. And we've got a cool guy joining us. He's the founder of Kentucky Hop Water. Let's welcome in Michael Moeller.
Hey Jonathan, how's it going?
It's good, man. How have you been?
Doing well, doing well. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast, so I'm excited to be here.
Well, hopefully we won't make it too painful on you. And it's one of our fun things we do where we just ask a bunch of questions and have a good conversations. And before we get into Kentucky Hop Water, I know you've been in the alcohol business realm for a while. You kind of do a lot of different things there. So how did you get into the alcohol business?
Uh, Tinder. I mean that's the joke, but honestly, when I think about like the origin story, it does kind of go back to a friend that I met on that app many years ago. She was a bartender, and then she went on to become a sales rep for a distributor. Started hanging out with all of her and her friends, and then at the time I was just a dude that liked drinking beer but didn't know anything about it. Fast forward a little bit, I actually started my own podcast back in the day. This was like 2016, I guess. It was called Building Breweries. And the only reason that I started that podcast was because, oh, I want to try to fit in with all these new friends of mine. And I want to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. So I just started interviewing all these founders and owners of breweries, nationwide, and asking them, in hindsight, really elementary questions. Like,
But you didn't know back then.
I no, I didn't. So it was actually I think that was part of the charm. It was just like me learning and being curious and being genuine. So that was fun. So then I do all that, and then I get into the communications like agency marketing space, and start having a bunch of different clients in the beverage alcohol industry. Meanwhile, I'm also kind of on the side working for breweries and bottle shops, beer bars. I worked for a distributor at one point. So yeah, I've been all across the spectrum, across many different liquids over the years.
Well, and I was going to say, and if folks don't know how dedicated he is to this realm, he also helped launch Louisville Ale Trail, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct. That's a whole other beast. About 5-ish plus years ago, myself and two other individuals, John Renane and David Satterley, we started Louisville Ale Trail. I love bourbon, love Kentucky. I'm wearing a hoodie right now that says Bourbon from Wilderness Trace. So obviously, I'm not anti-bourbon. But that being said, Kentucky has a strong beer scene that I always believed needed to be celebrated a little bit more and advocated for a little bit more. So Louisville Ale Trail kind of fulfilled that purpose.
Well, that kind of is very fitting because I think, there might have been an empty space for this next thing that you launched that we're really going to get into. I know some breweries in the state have slowly made some house hop waters or any type options, but this is the first true Kentucky hop water. So what made you launch and go out on this venture of
Yeah.
Kentucky hop water?
I mean, I like hop water to begin with, and I can talk a little bit about it from like the innovation standpoint of how it all came about. But just from a category standpoint, it's something I enjoy. I don't love NA beers. There are some good ones, and actually, I like to say that it's never been easier right now to be social and sober because finally we're starting to get really good options between like Guinness and some of the athletics. They're making all some good NA products. But at the end of the day, like sometimes I just want to sit at the bar and not drink an NA beer because it just seems like it's an imitation. I drink a lot of seltzer waters anyway, and so if I was at a brewery and I saw a hopped up seltzer water, that's what I wanted to go for. And with local breweries, I mean, sometimes they'll have it available on draft, but oftentimes no, because to their credit, or really to their point, I understand. Why would you waste a draft line on seltzer water? So it's not going to be something that's on all the time.
Well, and like you said, it kind of fills that perfect spot because a lot of folks do love those NA options in terms of having something available. I'm with you. Athletic, there's a couple others that I enjoy occasionally, but again, depending on if you're trying to behave yourself and in terms of how many calories you put in, that's some wasted calories. I have become a big fan of the hop waters as well, and so it's cool to see you take that realm. And what was the process like to create a hop water, a Kentucky hop water?
So the process itself, let's rewind a few years back to COVID time, shut down, when we were all doing beers with Bashir, and stuck in my house. Quite honestly, overindulging. I was drinking a lot back then, as I think we all kind of were to an extent. Um, After shutdown, there was something psychological in my head that like just made a switch. I became incapable of drinking at home, at least by myself. With company, that's a different story. But like, no longer did I want like a shower beer. No longer did I want a lawnmower beer. No longer did I want to have a beer while I watch basketball or football on the TV at home. I wish I did. Things are a lot cheaper that way. But no, for some reason, I just couldn't do it. So I had a kegerator for beer, and I was just like, well, this is a waste. And so I just started carving up my own water, and then along the way I do different like Mio flavors, like crystal packets. Started just adding like Angostura bitters into it, maybe some like maraschino cherries, just something to spice it up. And then I started creating some hop teas with it too. So I would quite literally batch up, just put some hops in hot water, create a hop concentrate, and that'd be good for like a few days in the fridge at least. And then I would ratio it out into individual glasses of carbonated water from the kegerator that I had. And so would start playing around with different ratios of hops, different varietals of hops, until finally I was just like, hey, yeah, this is actually pretty good. I can drink this.
Well, and then like you said, you kind of took it to the next level of building out a brand and a product. How was it to transfer from that small scale in home to something that's much larger? Because I'm guessing the goal is to have this out as wide as you can in Kentucky at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already statewide. So I'm very happy with that through a distributorship partnership with the distributor Beer House. They've been great partners. And I'll be honest, like I had a really basic hop water formula that I was happy with. Some tweaks along the way. My brewery partner that I contract with to help me make this and can it is Against the Grain here in Louisville. So Jerry over there, he was head of operations, and he was able to take my recipe, punch it up, and then scale it up to 20 barrels. So they've been really good to work with as well. They've been helping me kind of understand the process because I've been part of the industry in different ways over the years, but like dealing with ordering cans, like just things like that, it was a little bit of a learning curve, and they've been able to help me with that.
And they didn't give you a hard time over just calling it something as simple as Kentucky hop water. I mean, I feel like Jerry and all those guys would want some crazy name.
Something a little bit more against the grain, maybe. No, I I was very purposeful with the name. Um, my dorky marketing background. I want something that's very simple to Google.
I like it. I like it. Straightforward and simple. And you talked about how you were kind of experimenting with stuff. Ended up kind of making you settle in then on the final formula with the two different hop varieties and things like that? Was that just that was the best tasting thing, or was it easy to scale? Kind of a little bit of both.
Um, yeah, scale didn't have too much to do with it. I mean, I guess there are more expensive hops that I could have gone with, but at the end of the day, it's a good combination that you find in beer a lot anyway, so it's very familiar. It's what I like the most. I mean, I was very close to doing a different hop, Motueka, and it just is like a single hop for the hop water. But then I was thinking, I was like, that's like in the future for a different SKU. I want it to be a little bit more familiar. So at the end of the day, Citra and Amarillo balance really nicely together as I'm opening this myself. Balance really nice together. And then also adding a little bit of citric acid in there to help keep the pH down a little bit, which adds, a lot of brightness to it as well.
Well, I was going to say, when folks get to try one of those, what can they expect? Because it's not the traditional, if they're thinking NA beer, that's not what a hop water is. So what can they expect with one, a hop water, and then two, with the Kentucky hop water?
I always frame it as, as I start sampling these things out, my first question is, do you drink seltzer waters? If the answer is no, then I find that it could be 50-50 on if they like it or not, which is fine. If you're not used to having just like a sparkling water or, a LaCroix or something, this would be very foreign to you and kind of strange and kind of like a punch in the face because you're just like, oh, that's not sweet, but it's still carbonated like a soda. you're going to get a lot of citrus, some floral, very very bright, um, refreshing, but also because of the water profile and the minerals used, it's kind of dry-ish as well at the end. Kind of still playing around with that, but at the end of the day, I'm very happy with how it tastes.
Well, and then you also decided to go, for those that are watching, you can see you went with the tall boy cans, the 16 ounce. Why go that route? Because for the most part, everything I've seen is either 12-ounce cans or a 12-ounce bottle.
Um, I think it's the most familiar can for a craft beer drinker. I mean, those are my people. That's the space that I work in. 16-ounce 4 packs is a format that I personally really like, and also just from a material standpoint, it's a little bit cheaper to get, get that. Um, and also, it's a differential to your point. I mean, if you normally see them in a 12-ounce can, and then all of a sudden you see one that's in a 16-ounce can, that's you tend to notice it. Lagunitas did have a 16-ounce can there for about a year or so, but I just learned a couple weeks ago that they are discontinuing that format. I think they're going either back to a bottle format or a 12-ounce can. So as it stands right now, pretty sure that I'll be the only ones in store with a 16-ounce can.
Well, and you talked about you have that statewide distribution with the distributor. You're still relatively young now. I believe this everything officially launched right at the end of last year. So, where can folks find it, and how has that been going, getting it out and about?
It's been good, man. Again, I'm learning. This is a one man. It's me. So like I'm the one running social. I'm the one going out and selling to accounts. I'm the one making sure that the cans get delivered in a timely manner. But that being said, I also update the website pretty religiously, and so if I have an account, buy it, I try to update the website immediately because I have a product locator on there. So that's the easiest way to find it is go to KentuckyHopWater.com and then click that little button that says find it. And I'm hoping, like right now, it's in a lot of places in Louisville because it's just low hanging fruit because that's where I'm from. Lexington, Northern Kentucky, some Western Kentucky as well, like in Paducah. Hoping to get a little bit more statewide soon, and then also not at this exact moment because I actually ran out for my own personal stash, but I also have some e-commerce capabilities as well. So I've shipped it already to various states around the continental U.S. So that's another thing that's gonna as I continue to grow, make that process a little bit more efficient and available.
Well, and I've noticed too, when looking at that product locator, that a lot of breweries have picked it up. I know here in Lexington, where I'm at, Ethereal's got it, and then there's some others around the state. How nice is it to get? Because I know those are your people. You've worked with a lot of different folks. How nice is it to see them pick it up as an option to have a Kentucky option in Kentucky?
It actually means a lot. Like I don't. I've worked with these guys in so many capacities over the years, and it's nice that they took a little chance. Now, I will say, I think it also kind of saves their skin a little bit, so they don't have to make a hop water anymore. And then, just ultimately, at the end of the day, like having more NA options, if you're a bar or a brewery or a bottle shop, whatever, you just cast a wider net.
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, and we've talked about it. I think that a lot of people are getting into that. Maybe you have a beer, maybe you have a hot water, maybe you have another beer, kind of behave yourself a little bit more throughout the night. And, you know, you talked about, you're still early on. This is kind of something you've been kind of messing around with, at least recipe wise, for a while. So what's kind of your goal as you build out with Kentucky hop water, and where do you hope to see it go this year, next year, 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing some different hop varietals, some variants. So like we talked about already, Citra and Amarillo is the current OG version. But I want to have some fun with hops because when I was experimenting with that kegerator, I did find some things that were interesting. I Unless something changes, and I mean I can always change my mind. I reserve the right to change my mind. But I do not plan to ever put any fruit flavoring in hop water. A lot of folks do, especially on the the big national scale. I don't think I need it. I think I can get as much flavor from the hops as necessary to create. You want something more stone fruit. You want something more citrus and bright. You want something really piney and floral. Like I don't think we can. We should just be able to stick to hops for that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
more
that.
SKUs, more hop varietals, and then also THC. That's going to actually happen sooner rather than later. Kind of working on that already with the guys at Against the Grain. Um, it's a different space because it's not necessarily the sober space, um, but it is the NA space still.
Well, and I was gonna say, you've done a lot in the beer space, but I'm guessing with the hop waters and then even the THC, that stuff is regulated different than than beer. So what's it been like to go down that rabbit hole of kind of learning some different regulatory things, different stuff like that? Because like I said, it is different than the regular quote unquote beer space.
Yeah, FDA has their own regulations with just like labeling. It's like they're very strict about labels. And then with THC Delta 9, I mean, I had a meeting about that the other day, and there's a lot that goes into just exactly what is available, and then it was explained to me. And again, I'm kind of talking a little bit ignorantly right now because I'm still learning myself, but a lot of the THC drinks they have to have certain documentation listed publicly available on their website. The easiest way for them to make sure that people have easy access to that information is they put a little regulatory small QR code on the can. So it goes to their website, but usually it goes straight to a page with all of the fun, boring regulatory information. So
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 just
I'm sure that there's some person out there that works for all these different companies, like in marketing, and he or she is just like, uh, it's really ruining my creative design. Like I have to put this stupid QR code on here. It doesn't even lead to the fun part of the website.
I was gonna say that might keep you up at night with your background and everything you've done. But it seems like you got a lot going on, Michael, and it's cool to see. And you know, obviously, as you mentioned, you kind of want to do the different hop varieties. Honestly, I have tried a lot of the hop waters that have the flavors. They're not. I go back to the original more often than not. So I love to hear that because I found there's a lot of creativity there, and that also kind of ties in, I think, a little bit more to the beer world that hopefully people will recognize.
It does. I mean, yeah. I To really reiterate, while I view this as an NA product, and folks that typically will gravitate towards the NA section of a menu, obviously I want it there for them. But that being said, I don't really consider it in the same space as other NA products. I want it to be, you kind of mentioned this earlier, but what I've been saying is the drink between drinks. So if
Hmm.
you're out at a bar and you just want to extend the night and also hydrate, go for a hot water. It's something to hold in your hand. Like I understand, like that's just like a comfort thing for a lot of people sometimes. But then also, I will say, because I'm not adding any additional flavors to this, I think Kentucky Hop Water has an opportunity to be a great educational asset and resource for discerning beer drinkers. If they're out and trying to like figure out beers and what beers they like and what IPAs and different hops in IPAs that they like, beer's awesome. I love a good malt, love good barley. But it does sometimes get in the way of the hops. So if you just concentrate the hops and put it into water, and that's how you are discovering those hop flavors, I think that is incredibly advantageous for somebody to have in their arsenal.
I was gonna say because a lot of breweries are telling everyone what the hops are, but if you don't know them right off the bat, it's hard to tell if you're gonna like it or not. And I almost forgot this as well. I believe this is pretty cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you also use Kentucky water in the Kentucky hop water, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with Louisville Water Company. They're for those that aren't familiar, Louisville Water Company and Louisville Water, we're very proud of our water for a lot of reasons. And honestly, it is good. When I go somewhere else, I'm just like, ugh, it's not Louisville water. New York is an exception. New York has exceptional water as well. Um, but yeah, it's I always like to say, limestone water. What's good for bourbon and what's good for beer is also good for hop water.
I love it. I love it. And as we wrap up, where can they get more information to find out where it's at and maybe keep up to see what else fun you have coming along?
KentuckyHopWater.com or Kentucky Hop Water on the socials. Kentucky spelled out, although KY will also get you there too, probably. At least I'm pretty sure. Yeah, man, I'm very happy. It's going to be a fun journey.
Well, I can't wait to see how it goes. And Michael, thanks for taking a little bit of time to talk about this cool product and I think very well timed product as well.
I agree. I think it's a good time for the market.